Welcome back, everyone. So in previous videos I tied buzzers, epoxy buzzers, just to show the basics on how to tie epoxy buzzer. And I also tied a bloodworm or a chironomid or a non-biting midge larva, to be more accurate. And again, I would strongly recommend that if you guys are into invertebrates and like to do a bit of research on them and be more accurate with your flies, to get a copy of Christianfry's book titled A Field Guide to Freshwater Macroinvertebrates of Southern Africa. Now, I'm pretty sure there's many places that you can get the book from, but I know that Frontier Fly Fishing in Johannesburg stock them, and you can order it from there. I think you can order it online as well. It's definitely a book that I work out of very often, and especially when I go to new waters. I do some research. I have a look at the size of the insects. The book gives you all that information: true colors, sizes, distribution, all those sort of things. I've tied quite a few chironomids in the last couple of months. It's something that I fished in the Eastern Cape very successfully, and especially now with the trout season in South Africa starting, it's a very successful pattern to fish in our still waters. Let it be the Dalstrom area, Natal Midlands, Eastern Cape, many of those waters. And now I showed techniques on how to tie them and a little bit on the colorations and stuff, but what I want to do is to, or in this one actually, I want to do more on the coloration and how to create the different effects on these flies. So many of these insects are pretty much transparent, and that is something that's always as soon as something is transparent, is how do you imitate that? What do you use? What do you do? Now obviously you can go and throw a bare hook in the water and fish it as a chironomid, and I'm pretty sure you'll be successful with that. But if you want to be a little bit more accurate with the imitation, then there are ways of imitating that. If you look at the main thing when you tie these flies is to look at the size of the flies, the color of the flies, and the shape. Now a normal buzzer is generally a shorter or midge larva is shorter, kind of curled profile, where the chironomids will have a slightly longer profile, and that's why we tie it on a longer curved shank hook like the 14582. I'm just going to do a normal average midge kind of general midge kind of imitation with on a 14711, which is pretty much what most midges are tied on, and it's the fine wire and a size 12. But I want to show you two things. One is a different way of doing cheeks and the transparent effect that you can get on the fly. So you start by tying where you would normally stop your thread in that area. You start your thread there, tie 2 or 3 wraps like that. Take the tag end forward. You want to tie that off pointing forward, or cut that off pointing forward rather than backwards, because you don't want that little tag end that you can't cut off, you can't get in there, to be point backwards, because you're going to cover that with UV resin, and it always, when you cover something with UV resin and there's a little piece of hair sticking out, it's going to bother you, it's going to be in the way. You tie that off there and you cut that as short as possible right there, and then you go forward with your thread with open wraps. You create the rib on the fly with the thread. There's no material used for the abdomen. This fly is transparent. You're just going to create that rib like that right there until you get to that point there, and then you're going to do closed wraps again next to each other and do them forward to about there. Now for the cheeks, I'm going to use a grip holographic flash, which is a slightly stiffer, wider flash than the micro flash that we used in previous videos for ribs, for the rib. and you tie that tag end in right there before you even get to the area where you're going to tie the head of the fly. 2 wraps, and that's it there. And then you take another piece and you tie it on the other side. So this piece we're going to tie on the other side. I'm just going to rotate the vice so I can see. Tie that there. Secure those tag ends with a few wraps forward and then go backwards with tight wraps next to each other, holding the flash in place next to the hook. To there, and then you take your thread forward again. You can build up a little bit of a head. With a flash, because it's stiffer, you don't have to build up too much of a head. It will the flash will assist in creating a slightly larger profile or not the head, the thorax rather. Until you get there, and then you fold one piece one side forward, and you tie that off, and you do the same on the other side. Tie that off, then you cut the flash, remove that piece and the other one, and with a few wraps you just close those ends in. Like that, and you tie the fly off. Just like that. Now you've got a fly, very thin profile with a rib. Now, an important thing here is that you must remember, if you're going to cover this with a UV resin, you have very little material there for your UV resin to grip onto. So again, we're going to do the thorax first, and then we're going to go to the abdomen area to cover that. I just want to get a bit of epoxy or resin out. We're going to cover this area first. To create a nice oval shaped or rugby ball shaped head. There we go. And you cure that with your UV light. Now the next step would be to do the abdomen, and that's generally a bit trickier because you have UV resin running down to the back end of the hook, and it can form a ball there. So if you want to imitate a black fly, like a fly larva, which we also have in our waters, and you can see the shape or the profile of that fly, then that is what you want. But with a chironomid, you don't really want that, or with a buzzer, you don't really want that. So we're going to cover it with a very thin coat of UV resin. Just to create a bit of a key to hold on to, and you're going to cure that. And then you can go ahead and add a little bit more to get that profile right. You may have to move it back and forth and rotate that vise all the time. That is why it's very important that you use a rotary vise, or a vise with a full rotary function, and I use a jvice. Okay guys, so I need to apologize for cutting this video a bit short. That screeching noise in the background was my inverter telling me that my office batteries are busy running down at home. But I was pretty much finished with this fly. You can see I managed to cure the resin, and you can see the finished fly here. You can see the pretty much translucent abdomen and a very thin profile on this fly. So you can go and play around with this, play around with the idea, play around with the techniques. And please let me know what you think of this. Please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and I'll be back here soon.